Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Bol Nitai Gaura Hari. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in ISKCON Seattle. I was here in June 2022. That was my first visit here, actually. And it's wonderful to be back 2 years and 2 months later, almost to the day, actually. My name is Ananda Caitanya Das. Obviously, I'm a brahmachari, I'm a monk, so I live in the temple full-time. I'm from London, you can probably tell from my accent. I was born and bred in London. My parents are from North India, but I grew up in London. I was familiar with ISKCON and Krishna consciousness in my youth, but I became a practitioner when I was at university. I was studying economics at Cambridge University in the UK. In my first year at university, I was 17, turning 18, and that's when I started to practice and take the process seriously. Reading and studying the books, committing to chanting a certain number of rounds a day and building up and so on. After that, I worked in banking for a year and a half as a trader. And then I decided that I wanted to join the temple. So I did so. I spent 10 years in Bhaktivedanta Manor. Has anyone been to Bhaktivedanta Manor? One, that's all. Who's heard of Bhaktivedanta Manor? Okay, so most of you have heard of. You should go. It's a beautiful, wonderful temple donated by George Harrison of the Beatles to the Christian consciousness movement. Beautiful place. And then 8 years ago, I moved to Hungary, ISKCON Hungary. So I live in Budapest. It's a beautiful city. And we have a wonderful temple in Budapest. And 2 hours south, a very nice farm community, which is 700 acres of land. 750 acres of land. We have about 70 cows. Organic farm, where we produce 15 types of fruits, around 20 types of vegetables. 300 devotees living there all together. And for the residents, there's no running water and no electricity. It's really simple living, higher thinking. So like village life, like many of your parents or parents' parents would have lived like that in Indian villages. So that's how it used to be, and not just in India, all over. It was really, life was simple, particularly before the Industrial Revolution. So it's a wonderful place to go and to visit. And I encourage everyone to do so. So we're visiting. We're here in North America. We're coming to the end of a 3-month tour here, where we're giving some classes, some Christian Katha, and sharing these beautiful books, which you see on the table here to my left. So I'll be speaking a little bit about that today. And it's a pleasure to be here in ISKCON Seattle. I really thank Rajaman Prabhu and the management, the other members of the management for facilitating our visit. And we're here for 2 days. We arrived yesterday, myself and Smarahari Prabhu here, and we leave on Monday. So we did a session this morning. Some of you were in attendance, some of you maybe watched online. some maybe not. But basically the theme of these 3 sessions is Krishna in Vrindavan. So this morning we actually spoke about Krishna in Dwarka. So, but even in Dwarka, there are many Vrindavan pastimes that take place. Krishna spends around 16 years in Vrindavan. He then leaves Vrindavan. He spends the next 25 years in Mathura. That's 41. How many years was Krishna on the planet? 108. Someone else? 109? Someone else? 135. 125. Correct. So 125 years. So that means how long did he spend in Dwarka? So 41 years. So 16 plus 25 is 41. The rest in Dwarka. How many years in Dwarka? 84. Good. You like maths. So actually many Indian kids, I ask them, what's your favorite subject? And they say maths. It's a trait. Also, my favorite subject at school is always maths also. So he spent the majority of his time in Dwarka. But in Dwarka, Krishna was experiencing an intense degree of separation. He was feeling separation from Vrindavan. He was constantly meditating on Vrindavan. So this separation is a key part of our process of Krishna consciousness. Madhavinda Puri was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's grand spiritual master. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master was Ishvara Puri. His spiritual master was Madhavinda Puri. Madhavinda Puri was chanting a particular verse which is in the mood of Srimati Radharani, who's in separation from Krishna. This is found in Madhya Leela 4:197. It's Aidina Dayadranatha he Mathuranatha Kudavalokeshe Hridayam Twadaloka Kataram Daita Brahmyati Kim Karomi Aham. Madhavendra Puri was saying, Srimati Radharani says that Krishna, you're so far away. Of course, she's in Vrindavan. And she's saying to Krishna, you're so far away, you're Mathuranath. You're all the way in Mathura. Of course, these days, if you're in Vrindavan, you want to go to Mathura, you can get an auto, you can get a bus, you can get a taxi, 45 minutes, you're there. But still, it's far. And especially if you're walking, it's far, but it's more of a mood. You're not here in Vrindavan. If you're not here in Vrindavan, if you're not right by my side, then you're far away. This is real separation. So Radharani is feeling this deep separation, this deep mood that Krishna, you're Mathuranath, you're not Vrindavanath, you're Mathuranath. You're far, far away from us. And in this state, in this situation where you're so far, my heart is breaking. My heart is breaking. It feels like my heart is being torn apart. What shall I do? Kim karomi aham. So this is the mood. And so Madhavendra Puri is constantly chanting this verse. He's in this mood of separation, deep lamentation, and he's chanting and chanting and chanting. And it's described that this verse and other verses like it is like sandalwood. If you keep rubbing sandalwood, rub, then a very wonderful aroma is elicited. So in the same way, if we chant these verses in this mood of separation, it rubs off. It rubs off onto the heart of the chanter, of the person who's attempting to enter into this mood. So this separation, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was constantly in this mood of separation. He says, Yugaitam nimishena chakshusha pravishaitam shunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. In the absence of Govinda, a moment feels like 12 years or more. So this is a constant theme in the pastime. So when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, then separation is extremely intense. But even when he's in Vrindavan, we were saying this morning, then there is separation also. Separation is a constant theme. If you look at Krishna's day, you can say it begins at 6 a.m. in the morning. So Krishna he likes adventure. by nature, he's a very adventurous person. He likes variety. Each and every one of us is an individual living entity, and we're all very unique. Even if you have twins, born at the same time, same parents, same upbringing, still identical twins, they're still different. They have their own uniqueness. This shows that every individual is unique. Why? One reason is because Krishna is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He's Rasaraj. He's the proprietor of all rasas. He loves variety. He loves, he makes each and every one of us unique because he has an individual relationship with all of us. And therefore, he wants to enjoy that uniqueness. So, we're made this way by Krishna because he wants to experience this variety. And so in the pastimes, in Krishna's pastimes, there's always constant pastimes are going on. Once, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they published a newspaper. It was called Ananda Caitanya Prakash. And in this newspaper, on the outside, there was the politics, the sport, the economics, all of those things which you expect from a newspaper. And on the inside, the topic was news from the spiritual world. And there was all sorts of pastimes which were written there. And Saraswati Thakur made this newspaper a daily newspaper. So then the devotees came to him after some time, they came to him and they said, we're worried. What will we write about? If we're producing a daily newspaper, we'll run out of things to say. So news from the spiritual world, what new things will we write? Saraswati Thakur explained that actually there's no problem. Because in the spiritual world, there's constantly newer and newer fresh pastimes taking place. There's no dearth, there's no limitation on the pastimes. Unlimited pastimes are taking place. He said we could produce a new newspaper, not just every day, but every hour. And then he said, no, not every hour. We could have a new newspaper every minute. And he said, no, not every minute, every second, every moment. We could produce a new newspaper with fresh news from the spiritual world because it's constant. In the spiritual world, there's always something new and wonderful taking place. So we have to engage our energies, our consciousness, our time in learning more about what's happening in the spiritual world, because we're very used to looking at the news, what's happening in the material world, what's happening with the celebrities and the sports people and the movie stars, what's happening in their lives. But it's all run-of-the-mill. Run-of-the-mill, it's all very similar in nature. The principles are all the same. In the spiritual world, it's Nava-Navaya. It's always fresh and always new. There's always wonderful things happening there. We need to engage our consciousness in this. Srila Prabhupada, therefore, very early on in the Krishna consciousness movement, 1969, he had the Krishna book printed. Prabhupada's life's work was the Bhagavatam, his magnum opus. But he was concerned. He wasn't sure whether he'd be able to complete the translation of the 18,000 verses of the Bhagavatam. And therefore, he wanted to make sure that the essence was there and available for the devotees. So he produced the 10th canto in the form of a summary study. And that was the Krishna book. So that when devotees, when they say the name of Krishna, it's filled with meaning, it's pregnant with meaning, you say. So Rupa Goswami has a very beautiful verse. He says, when we chant this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we chant this mantra, it's so beautiful, it's so wonderful, it's so deep. So he says, Tunde Tandavali Ratim Bitanute Tundavali Rabdhe. Karna krodha kadambini katayate karnar budhe bhyas priham cheta prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim no jane janita kiyad viramrite krishneti varnam dvai. He says, when I chant this holy name, when I chant this mantra, not just this mantra, he's talking about the 2 syllables, Krishna. When he chants Krishna, then it feels like this mantra, these 2 syllables, this name is dancing on his tongue. So it's an amazing sensation that he's describing. It's maybe an anathema to many of us. When he's chanting the mantra, it feels like it's dancing on his tongue, because actually the mantra is non-different to the name. When I first heard this statement, I was wondering, how does that make any sense? The mantra, the sound, is non-different to the name. Abhinnatvam namanamino. The name and the possessor of the name are the same. So actually when Krishna is chanting, when we chant this mantra, Krishna himself is dancing on the tongue when we chant attentively, when we chant properly. So Rupa Goswami is describing this experience that he's chanting the mantra and he's dancing on his tongue, and what an amazing sensation this is. And then he says that this mantra goes from his tongue and it goes into his ear. And when it enters into his ears, so when he chants a mantra and he's dancing on his tongue, he wishes he had millions of tongues. Then, when it enters into his ears, he wishes he had millions of ears, so he can just drink the nectar of this mantra through his ears. And then, when it enters the whole of his ears, karna krodha, when it enters his ears, it enters into the chamber of his heart. And as the mantra is dancing in the chamber of his heart, it's such an amazing, deep sensation, such an experience, that all of the other senses are rendered inert. It's like you're not even there. Everything is just focused and absorbed on this mantra, which has entered into the chamber of the heart. It's dancing in the heart. And that's when one goes into samadhi. Nothing else exists. One is not aware of one's external environment. One is simply fully absorbed in the mantra. All other senses are rendered inert. And then he says, no jane janita ki adviramrite krishneti varnam dvai. Who knows how much nectar there is in just these 2 syllables, Krishna. Krishna. Never mind Hare and Rama. Those words, syllables, they are glorified in so many other places throughout scripture, but Rupa Goswami is simply focusing on this Krishna. So when we say this name, Krishna, it should have so much meaning, so much depth. Our heart should jump with joy, and there should be so many pastimes which come to mind. So Prabhupada wanted to provide the devotees with all of these insights, so that when we are chanting the names, we can remember the pastimes. And therefore he gave Krishna book. And in pursuance of Krishna book, so many other books have been written. The acharyas have written so many wonderful pastimes through which our understanding of Krishna and the philosophy which underpins his pastimes can be enriched more and more. So Krishna's pastimes outside of Dwarka are very beautiful, and his pastimes in Vrindavan are also extremely beautiful. And our focus as Gaudiya Vaishnavas is really Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Our goal is Vrindavan. And therefore, if we read the writings of the acharyas, of the great souls who have written so many wonderful literatures, their focus, the descriptions are all pastimes in Vrindavan. So if we look at This morning we were talking about Nava Vrindavan and how it transpired that Krishna was stuck in the palace of Rukmini and he had to escape in order to meet Satyabhama, who's Srimati Radharani. In Vrindavan, of course, it's the other way around. Srimati Radharani is stuck in her palace. She's also the daughter of a king, Vrishabhanu Maharaj. So, but she's married and she's living in Javat. She has to get away in order to meet Krishna. She has to leave the house somehow without the escaping the vision of her in-laws. She has Jatila and Kutila. Who's heard of Jatila and Kutila? Yeah, the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law. So this isn't just from Bollywood movies, that there's an evil mother-in-law and sister-in-law. This is coming from the spiritual world. This is bona fide. It's not always the case, of course, as I'm sure you know, but it's sometimes the case, that's for sure. I've seen it on numerous occasions. But in Radharani's case, she has a very evil mother-in-law and sister-in-law. We say that they always have their beady little eye on Srimati Radharani. You know, they're always looking like this at her, with an accusatory gaze. They feel that there is something going on between their daughter-in-law, Radharani, and that black snake, Krishna. That's how they refer to him. So there are so many pastimes which describe how Radharani has to try and escape in order to meet Krishna. Or there's pastimes in Javat. Javat is Radharani's, the home that she marries into. And actually all of the gopis, the gopis in Radharani's camp, they marry into Javat. So they all live close together. So on one occasion, Kutila, she's listening into Radharani's door and she feels there's a conversation going on. You know how like you have a cup and you put it to the door so you can hear what's going on? She's hearing into the door and she feels, I'm sure, Radharani's there. She's speaking to someone. Abhimanyu, her husband, is out herding the cows. He's busy. Who is she speaking to? And she ascertains that she must be speaking to Krishna. So she's sure he's in there, no doubt. So then she calls her mother. She calls Jatila. And she says, I'm sure Krishna is in there with Srimati Radharani. So then they're both listening and they hear the voices, they're speaking. So they get ready. They're going to pounce on them and they think, okay, now we've caught them. We're going to catch them red-handed. Such a long time, Radharani's playing innocent little daughter-in-law, like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. We have this phrase. Imagine, so innocent that butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. So they think now we're going to catch them. At the same time, on the other side of the door, there is Krishna and Srimati Radharani, but they get some inclination that there's someone on the other side of the door and they're listening. So just as Jatila and Kutila are about to barge into the room, Krishna, at the very same time, is jumping through the window. So just as they enter, Krishna's jumping out of the window and they think they get a glimpse of him, but they're not entirely sure. And they say, you were with Krishna. Radharani, you were with Krishna. We heard his voice. He was right here. And Radharani says, what are you talking about? I was alone. But I'm sure we saw him. Jatila and Kutila say, I'm sure we saw him. We just saw his shadow leave. He jumped out of that window. And they're looking through the window. They can't see him. They can't see any sight of him. I'm sure he was here. There's no doubt he was here. And Radharani says, no, you made a mistake. I was just talking to myself. Sometimes I get bored. I Abhimanyu's always outside, he's always busy. I was talking to myself, no one else was here. You're mistaken, don't worry. Everything's okay. You're always so worried. So just as Jatila and Kutla were about to leave the room with a failed operation, Jatila noticed that there was a flute on the bed. What do you do now? There's a flute on the bed. Radharani's caught red-handed. Jatila said, look, flute! That Krishna was here. Now I've got proof. There's a flute. And this is Krishna's flute. Who else would it belong to? Krishna was right here. You're lying. But today, you've always been lying to us. But today we've caught you red-handed. How do you explain this now, Radharani? Tell us. What do you have to say for yourself? So now Radharani, she is dumbfounded. What do you say? What can she say? Can anyone think of an excuse? How can she prove herself innocent? See, the nature of Vrindavan is that the Parakiya Ras, this unwedded love, has to continue. In Dwarka, the steady state is Swakiya Ras. So this aspect where Krishna has to escape and meet Satyabhama, it goes on for some time in Dwarka, but ultimately Rukmini finds out and Satyabhama is accepted as a queen. It doesn't remain, the Parakiya Rasa hiding doesn't remain. In Vrindavan, the nature of Vrindavan is that this Parakiya Ras reigns supreme. Unwedded love is prominent, and therefore this has to be maintained. But how does Radharani get out of this in this situation? So there is a personality called Purnamasi, Yogamaya. Purnamasi is the director of the play. Actually, Vrindavan is a stage. It's a play. Every day there is a new script. Who writes the script? Purnamasi, Yogamaya. She writes a script. She's the director. She decides what will happen today. And then she explains the script to Vrindadevi. And then Vrindadevi has to execute. She has parrots. And she sends the parrots as messengers to all of the various personalities who are to take part in the play today. And tells them you have to be this time, this place, and this is your role, this is what you have to do. So like that, the daily pastimes of Vrindavan are orchestrated. So this is going on. So Purnamasi comes onto the scene and everyone's very respectful because Purnamasi is a Brahmani and they are all Vaishyas. So everyone respects the Brahmanas. So Purnamasi comes onto the scene and everyone pays their respects and then they say, Purnamasi says, what's going on? What's happening? What's all the commotion about? So then Jatila and Kutila say, today, you know, Purnamasi, we respect you, but we've been telling you for such a long time that this Krishna, he's spoiling our daughter-in-law. There's something going on between them. We had no doubt, but none of you believed us, but today we found proof. So they explained, we found this flute. We heard them talking, he left. She played innocent, but then we found this flute. So Purnamasi, do you know what Purnamasi said? Does anyone know this pastime? Has anyone heard this pastime before? So don't spoil it. Purnamasi said, oh my God, Jatila and Kutila, you're always making so many stories, it's all in your mind. What are you talking about? There's just one flute. Don't you know that last night it was raining flutes? It was raining flutes last night. And then they went to Kutila's room. Come, let's go to Kutila's room. In Kutila's room, there were 3 flutes. And Jatila started to beat her daughter, saying, you're a black spot on the family. What kind of a daughter are you? You're bringing disrepute to our family. And then they went to Jatila's room. And in Jatila's room, there were 5 flutes. So then Jatila and Kutila were left silent. They didn't know what to say. Purnamasi came to save the day. And there are various pastimes actually where Purnamasi comes. Her duty is to continue on with the pastimes, to make sure that the Vrindavan situation is maintained. So this was a story of the raining flutes. Radharani was an excellent cook. On one occasion, Durvasa Muni came to visit. Durvasa Muni, as we all know from the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, he's a great sage, a great ascetic. He's very easily pleased, but he's also very easily angered. And when he gets angry, then he curses. And Durvasa Muni is someone who you don't want to be at the wrong side of. When he curses heavy. He's very easily angered. So Durvasa Muni came to visit, and Radharani was serving him. And she managed to please Durvasa Muni with her service. So then Durvasa Muni gave her a benediction. He said, whatever you cook, whoever eats your cooking will live a long life. A long life, but not just a long life, a very healthy life. And whatever you cook will taste like amrit, like nectar. This was Durvasa Muni's benediction. Number 1, it will taste like amrit. Whoever eats it will live a long life and a very healthy life. Of course, Radharani doesn't need a benediction from Durvasa Muni, but this is just a pastime. So when Mother Yashoda learnt that Durvasa Muni had given this wonderful benediction, this great sage, again, they don't consider themselves as anything special. Mother Yashoda doesn't think that I'm the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and therefore I'm something special. They just consider Krishna to be a wonderful blue boy. So sweet, so lovely, so wonderful. They don't consider him to be God. So Mother Yashoda says that this great Durvasa Muni, we're Vaishyas, he's a great Brahmana, and he's benedicted Radha with such a wonderful boon. I should make sure that Radharani cooks my Krishna. So on a daily basis, Radharani walks from Javat to Nandagram. And she walks in order to cook for Krishna. It's a very rare situation actually, that you go to the house of another man or to the house of a man in order to cook. In Vedic system, it's unique, but this is for the pleasure of Krishna, and everyone in Vrindavan is focused on pleasing Krishna. So every day Radharani goes to cook for Krishna, and she goes with her girlfriends and they will assist her and they cook. And when they cook, then they watch Krishna. After they've cooked, it's served, and they watch Krishna eating, and they want to see is he satisfied? Is he enjoying the meal? And Krishna always leaves a little bit of Mahaprasad for them. He never finishes his plate. He always leaves some Mahaprasad, and he's thinking that Radharani's gone through so much toil and trouble to cook for me. I should at least reciprocate in some way. What is his way of reciprocating? It's by giving Mahaprasad. There are different levels of Mahaprasad. One is, if you're offered a plate, you take a piece, but you leave the rest. This is one level of Mahaprasad. Another level of Mahaprasad is if you take a bite. If you take a bite, and then you put it back to the plate, and then it's left for the recipient. This is a second level of Maha. More intimate is when it's taken, chewed, and then spat out. This is more intimate Mahaprasad. Once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had Mahaprasad. He had eaten a meal, And you know with the meal there's drumstick. And you chew the drumstick and then you spit it out. And then you have the sweets. But he was very strict, he didn't take sweets so much. But devotees would offer. You offer, he may or may not take. Generally he didn't take. So then the devotees were being offered the Mahaprasad and they could choose whatever they wanted. But Saraswati Thakur was looking to see what are the devotees taking. Are they taking that Mahaprasad which they like? Or are they taking that Mahaprasad which will give them the most intimate connection? So he was commending the devotee who took the drumstick. Because actually that's more intimate. Because he had chewed it and spat it out. And then the most intimate is when it's from one mouth to another, direct, dropped. That's the most intimate. So sometimes Srimati Radharani offers her Mahaprasad to her servants in this way. So there's different grades of Mahaprasad. So Krishna is, or he always leaves some Mahaprasad for the pleasure of Srimati Radharani and her assistants. So Radharani is very happy, she gets the Mahaprasad, she wraps it up and ties it in her veil, and she's just about to leave. But then Mother Yashoda comes, says, come, sit down. So she sits Radharani down on her lap. And then she starts glorifying Srimati Radharani. She says, you're so beautiful. You're so wonderful. You're so unique. She says, when you grow up, then I want to make sure that you marry my Krishna. You're the perfect bride for my Krishna. You're a match made in heaven. As she's doing this, Mother Yashoda is rubbing haldi, turmeric, into Radharani's hand. It's very, very beautiful. When does a girl have turmeric in her hand? Yes. So Mother Yashoda is very much in this mood that she wants Radharani as her daughter-in-law. So when Radharani sees this, Shri Radha Nilamadhav ki, Shri Gauritai ki, Jagnaballa Subhadramai ki, Sitaram Lakshan Hanuman ki, Nrsimhadev Bhagwan ki, many deities we have. So when Radharani sees her hand and she sees the turmeric in her hand, she says, oh my God, she's so shy. Of course, this is her dream as well, to marry Krishna. But she sees her hand, it's got haldi in it, and then she runs away. She's shy. And as she's walking with her friends, with her girlfriends, they say, if anyone sees your hand, you have to be very careful. If anyone sees your hand, then they will think so many things. What's going on here? Already she's getting married at such a young age, no arrangement, what's going on? They'll start throwing so many accusations. So you better find the closest pond or lake and wash your hands. So they find a pukur, Bengalis pukur, lake. And Radharani starts washing her hands. And she's washing and washing and washing. And as she's washing, she's just meditating. She's lost in thought. Because Radharani, Mother Yashoda's proposition, the picture Mother Yashoda painted was so beautiful, was so wonderful. Radharani starts thinking, wow. So she's lost, she's absorbed in this thought. And as she's absorbed, she goes into this ecstasy. And so it's not just a turmeric that's washed into the lake, but Radharani's consciousness enters into the lake. Radharani is Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari. She's golden. Why is Radharani golden? Because her consciousness is golden. The color, if we are to assign a color to prema, then it is molten gold. Like gold which has been under extreme heat, it becomes molten and it becomes very shining gold. This is the color of prema. So Radharani is prema personified. Yeah, she's a personification of prema. So Radharani, she's so absorbed, her consciousness enters the lake, the whole lake becomes yellowish. And then her friends call her, what are you doing? What's taking you so long? So then she awakens from her reverie and they go along their way. But the lake is now yellow. What is yellow in Hindi? Pila. In Bengali is pili or pili pukur. This is a pastime of pili pukur, is described. Locally, this is how it's known. So, sometime later, Krishna is trying to find a calf. It's gone missing. And he comes close to this lake. As he comes close to the lake, he's just naturally somehow drawn towards the lake. He can't stop himself. And he just goes to the lake. And he just jumps in. He doesn't know what's going on. And when he's in the lake, he's just absorbed in bliss. Because what is he absorbed in? He's absorbed in the mood of Srimati Radharani, this love of Krishna, this deep love of Krishna. And so Krishna takes in this mood. And then he comes out, and Krishna is golden, because he's taken in the bhav of Srimati Radharani. Who does this remind you of? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gauranga, who is Radha Bhavadyuti Sovalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. Krishna with the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani. So this pastime is a precursor to the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the pastime of Pili Pukur. After some time, of course, the effect wanes and Krishna returns to his blackish form. He's dizzied for some time, just experiencing this great ecstasy, the bliss of being a devotee of Krishna, of loving Krishna. It's such a unique, wonderful experience, and it stokes that fire in Krishna's heart to experience more what it's like to be a lover of Krishna. One last pastime. On one occasion, Krishna he was very sick. And he just fainted on the ground. And Mother Yashoda was beside herself. She didn't know what to do. What do we do now? Krishna's sick. He's fainted. What's happened? What will happen to him? Maybe he's going to die. And she's running around to everyone saying, what shall we do? So then a doctor comes down the road. Actually, Krishna has expanded. And a doctor comes walking down the road. And Mother Yashoda says, Doctor, you've come just at the right time, please. My Krishna's here, he's fainted, he's not moving. What's happened to him? Please, give us some solution. Give us some medicine. So the doctor comes along. He's dressed very old with a beard, you can't recognize that he's Krishna. And he takes out his stethoscope. Of course, okay, he doesn't have a stethoscope, it's 5,000 years ago. But he starts doing all sorts of tests. Okay, he checks the pulse. Ayurvedic doctor checks the pulse. And he says, the situation is very critical. It's very serious. There's only one solution. We need some water from the Ganges. Mother Yashoda said, of course, we'll bring water to Yamuna's right here, we'll bring water. We can bring tons of water. He says, no, listen. There's a pot. And in this clay pot, you have to drill 100 holes into the pot. And from this pot, the purest woman of Vrindavan has to go to the Yamuna, fill the pot with water, bring it back, and sprinkle Krishna with the water from this pot. Then and only then will your son be cured of his malady. This is the only solution. Otherwise, Another hour, and he's finished. Mother Yashoda's hearing those words is so difficult. So she's running around. Says, okay, I'll do it. Give me the pot. No, not allowed. You're the mother. The mother's not allowed. Someone else has to fulfill this task. So then Mother Yashoda gathers all of the ladies of Vrindavan. She runs around gathering, catching them. Please come, you have to help. So she sends the ladies, go to the Yamuna with this pot. The pot has 100 holes. Each of them, one by one, they take the pot. They fill it with Yamuna water. But as they're walking back to Krishna, all of the water empties. They come back with an empty pot. So many ladies try. Then the doctor starts to do some astrological calculations. He says there are 2 ladies. Their names are Jatila and Kutila. Go and find them. Do you know them? Try them. Mother Yashoda hadn't approached them. They're not the most friendly of people. But Mother Yashoda went to find Jatila. Of course, everyone knows Jatila and Kutila. They're infamous. So she goes, she runs, she gets Jatila and Kutila. It's quite far away. If you're in Nandagram and you want to go all the way to Javat, it's quite far away. But the nature of Vrindavan is that the lotus of Vrindavan is described as 1,000-petaled lotus. And that lotus expands and contracts according to the need of the day. So sometimes when the pastime of that day is that Krishna is going to be late to meet Srimati Radharani, then the lotus will expand and it will take him much longer to get to the meeting place. He's late. Radharani will be angry. She'll go into man, and this will be a whole pastime. But when Mother Yashoda needs to get Jatila and Kutila because they're going to potentially save the day and save Krishna's life, then the lotus of Vrindavan will contract. So that she gets there very quickly and they come back. So Jatila and Kutila are very proud. Mother Yashoda says that we are looking for the purest ladies of Vrindavan. This is an emergency. They'd be happy to see Krishna dead, but they're even happier to see themselves glorified as the purest maidens of Vrindavan. So Kutila says, leave this to me, mother. I'll take care of this. So she takes the pot. She goes to the Yamuna, fills it with water, but all of the water empties. And then Jatila says, my God, you're meant to be pure. You're a disgrace to the family. What kind of a daughter have I brought up? She starts cursing her. So then Jatila takes the pot. She goes to the Yamuna and all of the water empties. So then Jatila starts saying, this is an impossible task. Who set this task? This will never happen. Yashoda, your son is going to die. You can find a snake on Garuda. You know, Garuda loves snakes. You can find a Garuda you can find a snake on Garuda. You can bathe an elephant in the amount of water that you find in a calf's hoof print. But you won't be able to complete this task. This bucket has 100 holes. How will you be able to get water from the Yamuna to this place? Impossible. So the doctor continues with his calculations and he says there is one more personality. This is the last chance. She is the purest of the pure. Who is this? Radharani. So Mother Yashoda runs. She brings Radharani. Jatila and Kutila are laughing. They're saying, Radharani, our daughter-in-law, you think she's pure? You have no idea. This doctor's bogus. So Radharani comes and she's very shy. But Mother Yashoda is very panicked. So she cooperates. And of course, Radharani wants to save Krishna also. So Radharani takes the pot. She goes to the Yamuna. She fills the pot with water. And she brings the pot back, and the water remains in the pot. And the doctor, is that okay, that sound? Okay. The doctor takes the water, which is Yamuna water, which has been transported in this pot with 100 holes, intact. The doctor takes this water, he sprinkles it on Krishna, and Krishna comes back to consciousness. And therefore Radharani is declared the purest maiden of Vrindavan. So, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. So there are so many wonderful pastimes that take place in Vrindavan. They're very sweet. We sing during Kartik time, Iti Driksva Leela Bhir Ananda Kunde. So this is Krishna's purpose actually. It says Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chaduchkitam Dharma Samstapanathaya. 3 different purposes Krishna comes for, but actually anyone can annihilate the miscreants. Anyone can re-establish the principles of religion. But Krishna comes in order to grab the hearts of the devotees, to perform wonderful, beautiful, inspirational pastimes which attract the heart of the devotees back to him. This is the real purpose of Krishna's advent. This is why he comes, so that we will be inspired to go back to him. And so the more we hear about Krishna, his name, his form, abode, associates, qualities, pastimes, the more we absorb our consciousness in these topics, the more we'll become naturally attracted to him. Devotional life is actually the most natural thing. In the stage of Vaidhi Bhakti, it feels unnatural, and that's why we have to follow rules and regulations. We have to do so many things. But actually for the jiva, Jivera Swarupa Hoy Nityera Krishna Das, this is a natural inclination of the soul, of the individual, is to serve Krishna. We have to very quickly return to that situation, to that position. And that means Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. We have to engage in intense devotional service. We have to really mold our lives in such a way that we can spend quality time with Krishna. And that really involves hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described as a mali, as a gardener. And he says, Shavana Kirtana Jale Karila Sechan. The creeper of devotion. We all have a creeper of devotion which we're cultivating. We have to be very careful. We have to protect this creeper from the weeds, especially whilst our creeper is relatively weak. And we have to make sure we water the creeper. What do we water the creeper with? With the water, Jale, Shravana Kirtana Jale. With the water of Shravana Kirtana, hearing and chanting about Krishna. So we have to make sure that our hearing and chanting is of very high quality. So in pursuance of the Krishna book, Srila Shiva Maharaj has written so many wonderful books which describe the pastimes of Krishna, which allow us, inspire us to absorb more and more in Krishna's wonderful, beautiful pastimes in Vrindavan. So there's hundreds of beautiful pastimes which are described. And we're going to play a little video where Maharaj is speaking about these books. And there's 2 sets of books here. This is really Maharaj's life's work. They're very beautiful, very high quality books. I think we're ready for the video, so we'll play that and then I'll speak a few words. I'll speak a few more words and we'll have some time for questions. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. I'm here accompanying Ananda Caitanya Prabhu to introduce to you our latest literary offering. This comprises of 2 sets of books, the Navavati Mahima and Krishna and Vrindavan series in box sets. So first I'll explain a little what Navavati Mahima is about. It's in 9 volumes, and the underlying inspiration is Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. It contains 600 of my favorite pastimes, of course, of Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. And it's projected onto the canvas of New Vrindavan, hence we call it Navapratya. The ninth volume is a map book that describes the places in which all of these pastimes took place. This is not a children's book, but like Krishna book, it's for children, for adults, for paramahamsas, and for beginners. And like Krishna book, there's quite a minimum of philosophy. This book took me 5 years to write, so 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And of course, the production is really high grade. We have first class paper, gold edging, gold blocking on the artificial leather cover. There are 400 pieces of art within the book, and these books will certainly last you many, many lifetimes. Okay, now let me describe Krishna in Vrindavan. And this is based on the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, Krishna's presence in Vrindavan from 1st to the 39th chapter. Again, the foundation is Srila Prabhupada's own commentaries, as well as those of other acharyas. What's the goal of these books? It's to deepen our absorption in Krishna by hearing his pastimes. The books which are in the set include Song of the Flute, Lena Gita, Napari Ham, Krishna leading Vrindavan and returning, Damodar Leela binding Krishna. And while sometimes people ask who is qualified to hear, the answer is certainly anyone can read these books, if anyone can read some Prabhupada's books, but we've written 2 books that underline the adhikar, or the qualification for reading, and that is Srila Bhakti Chintamani and Sankalpa Kaumudi. These books then culminate in Virat Kusumanjali, which is the book which I've just written or writing, and that is a commentary on Raghunath Das Goswami's book of the same name. Our purpose here is not to make money. The books themselves are actually subsidized. They do cost quite a bit to write. And our real purpose, my purpose, is that this is my legend. And hopefully those who read it, it will be their legend. Moreover, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to hear about Krishna because he wanted us to be mad after Krishna. How do you become mad in love after somebody? But you have to know them. And how do you know them? When you hear about them. You hear about Krishna's beauty, his qualities, his pastimes, his associates. This, Srila Prabhupada said, is our family business. Writing books, printing them, reading them. And Prabhupada wanted us to replace all the non-Krishna conscious literature of the world with Krishna conscious literature. He wanted his followers to learn. As a member of ISKCON, I'm making this an ISKCON-friendly book. They're directly written for devotees of our society. So I consider that this is my service to Krishna, to Srila Prabhupada, to you and your family. I'm humbly requested to take a set of these books, read them, gift them to others. It's a limited edition print, won't be always available. And finally, I'd like to invite you all to visit us in New Vrindavan and see where Radha Shyama are currently enacting all the pastimes that we are writing about in these books. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we've been, for those of you who were there this morning, you'll know, but we've been on a 3-month tour here in America. This is our very last stop here in Seattle. So we're hoping for a very positive response from you all, and already this morning we did have that. yeah, we've been touring. We've done 11,000 miles on the road by car in 11 and a half weeks. We started in Houston and we went all the way around up the East Coast into Canada and back into the US and all the way back down to Houston, zigzagging often also around the country. And then yesterday we flew here to Seattle to meet all of you and to share these beautiful books with you all. They're limited edition prints. Navaraj Mahima was out of print for 10 years. Many devotees were after them. Then eventually we reprinted them. And the nature of these books is that Maharaj is writing more and more, and the focus goes on to those books which he's writing, and less so on previous titles. It's the first time we've had the Krishna in Vrindavan series all together in one set at the same time in beautiful box sets. They're printed in Hungary using the best printer in the country. They're very high quality and very beautiful books. And the purpose of the books is to really inject Krishna into the heart of the devotee. To really inspire the devotee that this is what I want in my life. We have so many desires. If we look deep into our hearts, so many desires that are there. We have to cultivate real spiritual desires. How do we cultivate spiritual desires? The more we associate with devotees, advanced devotees who have spiritual desires, the deeper and attentive, the deeper and more attentive our chanting, the more spiritual desires will be cultivated, and the more we read and study about Vrindavan and Vraja Bhakti, the more those spiritual desires will take root and be cultivated in our hearts. So that's really the purpose of these books. They're promoting Krishna consciousness, and promoting Vrindavan. So please do take a look and take a set or two before you go this evening. Are there any comments, questions before we close? Anything anyone would like to say? One person. Something. It can be the ladies also. Something, someone. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming to Seattle, and it's really been a pleasure to know, especially the morning one, Vrindavan in Dwarka. It was amazing. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming to Seattle, and please be coming.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everything I said is from the books. But a question. Our tradition is based on question and answer. Bhagavad Gita is 700 verses, question and answer. Arjun asking questions of Krishna. Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses. So many conversations and conversations within the conversations, all question and answer. So someone must have a question. Yes, bro. Good.
Sorry.
Hare Krishna. The question is, rather than getting married to Abhimanyu, how do we take memory here? This past time, in the past also, Prabhuji's mother said, Abhimanyu is also nothing but Krishna. So then, whenever we hear of this, we have some conditioning of Radharani is Abhimanyu's wife, and Krishna also existing separately. So as a devotee,
So
how do we pick it up with something in our heart?
So it's described that Abhimanyu sleeps in the barn. You understand? So they don't have children. They never have any intimate exchange. The marriage of Abhimanyu and Radharani is simply one. See, one thing that we should always remember when we look at the pastimes of Vrindavan, and Prabhupada uses a very nice phrase. He says that it is all for the exaltation of rasa. That's the purpose. So this is one key phrase which I feel answers many such questions. The reason Radharani marries Abhimanyu is because it creates this unwedded love situation. Radharani has to escape from her in-laws in order to meet Krishna. It makes it more exciting. It means there's a deeper level of surrender that Radharani has to show. The more obstacles there are, the more intense the love. When you really work hard for something, when you achieve it, it's sweeter, correct? Yeah, it's more of an achievement. In the same way, when Radharani has to jump through so many obstacles in order to meet Krishna, the meeting, the union is even more intense, even deeper, even sweeter. It is all for the exaltation of rasa. So Jatila, Kutila, Abhimanyu, they all play a function. And fundamentally, the function is that they act as obstacles to Srimati Radharani meeting Krishna. And therefore, when she eventually does, then the rasa is even richer, even deeper. So they're plants. They're placed in the drama in order to increase the loving interactions. But there's no intimate exchange between them. That's what the acharyas describe. Make sense? Even, for example, it's described how Shankachuda, he kidnaps Srimati Radharani. This is described in the Krishna book also. How can it be that a demon so much as touches, is described that he grabs her by the hair? How can it be that a demon or anyone apart from Krishna touches Srimati Radharani? Impossible. So the acharyas describe that just like there's a Maya Sita, Ravana, how can Ravana touch Sita? Not possible. So there is a Maya Sita. Yeah? She's the one that Ravana takes. In the same way, Shankachuda, he touches Radharani, but this is a Maya Radharani aura. There's a word, a specific description which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses. It's the same concept, but there's a particular term which he uses, which is basically that this is not the original Radharani who's touched by Shankachuda. No other man. Krishna, Radharani is Krishna's Haladani Shakti. So no other man can touch Srimati Radharani. Make sense? Okay. Yes, bro.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the
class. Prabhuji also talked about Jatila and Kutila. In the past times, they were characterized as evil. So how such personalities can exist in spiritual world and they call us evil?
Yes. You know, the spiritual world is much more of a variegated place than we realize. There is enmity in the spiritual world. Yeah. In one quote, in Ujjwala Nilamani, which is a graduate text of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. See, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami talks about Dasiras, Sakyaras, Vatsaliras, and Madhuriras. He talks about all of them and describes them from various angles. And there is more of a focus on Madhuriras, but in Ujjwala Nilamani, which is the sequel, is simply a description of the Madhuriras. That is the absolute focus of that book. So in Ujjwala Nilamani, it describes that Chandravali says, I hate Radharani. I hate her. Why does she hate her? It's because Radharani can be so rude with Krishna, so harsh with him, so unforgiving, so heavy with him. And she thinks, how can anyone treat Krishna in such a cruel way? My wonderful, loving Krishna, he's so soft, he's so nice. So it's because they have different moods. Radharani is described as a left-wing gopi. Don't think of this as the politics. This is how it's described. So Radharani is left-wing, Chandravali is right-wing. In this case, left-wing means she's fiery, she's strong-willed, she can be uncooperative. Man, you know, this jealous anger is often a trait that she exhibits. Whereas Chandravali is very soft, is very compliant, very agreeable, never complains, always kind, always very cooperative with Krishna. This is her mood. So when she sees the way Radharani deals with Krishna, she feels, my God, this is terrible. Poor Krishna. Why should Krishna have to put up with this? So there's different moods in Vrindavan. There's different camps in Vrindavan. So in the same way, Jatila and Kutila, they have a particular mood, and their mood plays a certain function. Number one, it creates in Radharani this mood of, my God, my in-laws are terrible, my household life is terrible, I want to get out of here. Number two, they act as obstacles to Krishna, to Radha and Krishna meeting. And that obstacle all leads to the exaltation of rasa. It increases the element of separation, so then when there's union, that union is richer and deeper. Rupa Goswami says, "Nam vina vipralambhena sambhoga pushtimashnute." Without vipralamba, separation, union is not nourished. So the deeper or the more obstacles there are which create more separation, the deeper the union when it happens. So it's all for the loving pastimes, all for the exaltation of rasa. They all play a function. Like demons. Are there demons in Vrindavan? In Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, there's no demons. But there's the fear of demons. There's this thought that demons may come, demons may attack. So they play the function of increasing this excitement. Exaltation of rasa. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for your kind attention. I wish you a wonderful evening. I'm sure we'll see some of you tomorrow. But before you go, please come over to the table and take a look at the books. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Seattle ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nittai Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining for this second session of the Krishna and Vrindavan series. So we will continue the third session tomorrow evening. Before that, both Prabhuji and Ananda Caitanya Prabhu and Sura Hari Prabhu, they will be also joining us in the Rajotsav festival tomorrow in the farm. And please join us there because the mood is Vrindavan. I think everything is culminating just unplanned actually, right? So we are having Janmashtami in a few days, and then Harivamsha Prabhu is here, and we are celebrating Rajotsav, and then here we are discussing about Krishna and Vrindavan series. So tomorrow you will experience some of the Vrindavan aspect in physical, actually in terms of the play, the bhoga that will be prepared, and the talk and the consciousness. So please join us tomorrow in the Rajotsav festival tomorrow. So let's express our gratitude and thank His Grace Ananda Caitanya Prabhu for walking us some of the very unknown pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan by loudly chanting Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! As Prabhu requested, please, we will be here for some time, so please go and see the books, experience it, and let me know. As this is the last stop for them before they head back to Krishna Valley. So let's give our tremendous support for them because they have been doing very tirelessly for almost 3 months on the road. So let's express our gratitude and support by taking some of these books. Thank you. And as you heard from the video from Shivaram Maharaj said that these books may not be again available forever. So please. This is a rare opportunity that we may get once in a lifetime, so please make sure that you grab some of these copies. Thank you. Hare Krishna. that is not for sale.